The President of the United States has an almost mythic stature in American history. He's the dominant figure in American politics and the most powerful man in the world. But few of us today realize that this was not the kind of president the Founding Fathers had in mind. In the Founders' eyes, it was Congress that would take the lead in deciding what direction the country should go, and the job of the President, or executive, to execute what Congress decided.
Going back to the Founders, James Madison wrote a letter to Thomas Jefferson in which he said, "We don't have to worry about the executive. That's the weaker branch of the government. We want the legislature to be the centerpiece of government."
Not only did the Founders want Congress to be dominant over the President, but they did not want average Americans to have a role in choosing who that president would be. Their reasoning was that average Americans were not capable of making a wise choice.
In the early years of the Republic, voters were not called on to choose the President of the United States. Choosing the President was, quite honestly and quite deliberately, an elitist operation. The people who were thought to be the insiders in state government became the presidential electors, and they chose the president based on which set of Washington insiders they thought was the best. And the people were basically expected to accept that decision without complaint.
During the terms of our first 6 presidents, the government functioned pretty much like the Founding Fathers planned. But our 7th president, Andrew Jackson, had an entirely new vision of how things should work. First of all, he thought that the people should elect the president.
Jackson and his supporters decided to reinvent American politics. So they organized all kinds of popular demonstrations, rallies, conventions, assemblies of people who would get together and hurrah for Jackson. And this was the kind of tactic that didn't require finagling behind closed doors. It could take place in the boondocks. It could happen in rural Tennessee, rural Alabama, rural New York. And this kind of stirring up popular vote and giving the people the notion that they should choose the president and not the caucus members in Washington, that revolutionized American politics. The people have not been willing to give up the choice of president ever since.
Jackson also thought that the man the people chose to be president should dominate American politics.
Andrew Jackson was the first modern president because he was the first one who asserted that the president was not merely a member of the government symphony, he was its conductor. He said, "I am the only person elected by all the people, and therefore I have a special role in leadership, in setting a direction for the country, in imposing my will on the legislature or the court if I wish, and if people don't like it, they can vote me out next time."
But Jackson's vision deeply frightened many Americans.
Men like Henry Clay worried about Andrew Jackson courting the will and sentiment of the people precisely because it was, in their mind, demagoguery. You whip the people into a frenzy over something which may or may not be true, and then you ride their energy into office and then commit mayhem as you will.
President Jackson's actions would only feed Clay's fears, for it was his goal to make himself into the most powerful president America ever had.